Hello, testing. Hi, is MyFinB host there? Can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear you.
And audio and visual is okay? How about visual?
Visual is good.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be playing the music in a moment.
Hello. I had a terrible mess. You don't have someone excited to tell them.
KSI cannot clap for you.
I might get my sister to, but she's so old. Oh, my sister used to be a hairdresser.
Yeah, she cannot clap for you.
I haven't visited them also since 70 plus years old. So who are you?
Hello, anyone there?
Hi, Tan Sri.
Hi, my friend. How are you?
Good to see you after a few weeks since before Hari Raya, right?
Good.
Sri, can you hear me?
Sorry?
I'm
Sri,
just
can you hear
asking
me?
who else is around.
I saw
Sunita
Mr.
is
Go.
from MDEC.
Adam is there. Mr. Go is there. Hi, Mr.
Can
E.
see everybody. Pingwee, you're here, is it?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. How are you? Everything okay?
Good. Can you
Very
hear me?
good, very good.
Can you see me?
Looking well and good.
Yeah, good.
Started golf again?
Yeah, many times.
Oh, okay, okay. Because it was just like 2-3 weeks ago, he go back to the course, isn't it?
Yeah, but we
Very good.
play practically every day.
So you're playing every day?
Yeah, practically every 2 days.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. After such a long time, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I will cut off my video and mute it so that you all can talk.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks. We are still waiting for Adam and Carl.
Oh, yeah. I think Adam is in. Adam E. Mr. Adam E is in.
Adam, you are here?
His name is in the participants list.
Okay, Adam, are you here? You are here, but I can't see you or hear you. Adam, I think you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? What about Carl? Dr. Carl, are you here?
He's signing in, Tan Sri.
Okay. So Carl is here also, eh?
Not yet. He hasn't signed in yet.
Oh, okay. So we are okay to have, say, 10, 12 minutes presentation, and then we do some discussion. Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Hi, gentlemen. I think we have 2 more minutes. We should be starting shortly. I hope you are all okay and ready. Hi, Carl. How are you?
Hi. I'm having problem in my laptop, so I'm gonna use stream through using my mobile phone.
Okay, fine. I've been doing a lot of that with mobile phone as well.
Okay.
Okay, I think we can start. Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to our webinar on artificial intelligence and the digital economy. I think this will be an interesting webinar as we have 4 very prominent speakers to share their thoughts, their knowledge, their expertise with us. And our 4 speakers are Mr. Goh Peng Wee, the founder and group chairman of Silverlake Axis. And then we have Mr. Nasri, founder and CEO of MyFinB Group, which is a leading AI company. We're delighted to also have Adam Yee, President and CEO of Siemens Malaysia, and Dr. Carl Ng, a Director of the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, to share their thoughts with us. I think we have seen during the MCO period the tremendous growth in online business, in online education, as well as in many other Zoom meetings that have been conducted virtually, almost all over the world. And I think this leads us to think that the digital economy is the way forward for Malaysia and for the world as well. So today's webinar will help us to identify and think how artificial intelligence can further accelerate the growth of the digital economy, and how we can use artificial intelligence to also help shape futures thinking for Malaysian and global leaders. And I think that's something that is quite important and quite essential to dwell upon the need for futures thinking to develop future scenarios for your own corporations and for the country as well. So we have the 4 distinguished speakers with us. Each of them will share their thoughts with us for 10 to 12 minutes, and perhaps we can have some interactive discussion after that. I would like to invite first Mr. Nasri to make his remarks, followed by Mr. Gopin Hui, Adam Yee, and Dr. Carl Ng. So Nasri, over to you. Can you set the scene perhaps?
Thank you so much, Tan Sri. It's always been a pleasure working with KSI on very, very important topics like this that affects nations, economies, and industries. I'm also very privileged to be with distinguished panelists, Mr. Goh, Dr. Carl, as well as Mr. Simon E. Mr. Adam E, sorry. And I would like to bring attention to the topic that I'll be covering today, which is very much centered on one of the most important component of a digital economy, which is the SME side. So I understand that organizations such as Silverlake and Siemens would have dealt with very, very large organizations and in turn support the SMEs one way. But as far as our side is concerned, we feel that SMEs is a driving force of every nation building, and we would like to spend time on covering more on what AI could basically drive SMEs to bring themselves closer towards strengthening the digital economy and nation building. So let me just go through the slides very quickly, as I'm just given about 10 minutes, yeah? So 4 parts will be covered today. One is on the COVID recovery scenarios, which will in turn affect the way digital economy strategies are being carried out. You know, as we know, there are so many uncertainties, so many volatilities, and so many surprises that can happen along the way. So before we map out any form of strategy, we must be aware of the external environment and the possibilities that could come out of it. And the second part of my presentation will touch about the digital economy and AI per se, as to what's needed and what are the drivers behind it, with part 3, SMEs as a pillar of growth, and how we go about doing it with the solutions and with the measures that we feel could help at not just 1, not just 2, not just 100, but hundreds of thousands of SMEs as part of the nation building. So the setting is that with weakening global economic indicators, right, the conditions, homegrown SMEs, Malaysian SMEs now have an even more important role, okay, to be center stage. And one of the key drivers will be the use of AI on how to help them internally. So we are talking about using their HR data, finance data, accounting, operations, and help them prepare for external positioning, external exports, and so on in an integrated economy, right? And to drive growth, we feel that restoring and rebuilding the business fundamentals of SMEs are a good starting point to basically effect the growth and recovery strategy. And to start off with the 3 scenarios, basically there are 3 possibilities here. One scenario involves, a repeat or smaller waves of infections. So what we're going to see in scenario 1 in the next 6 to 8 months, it could be a situation where there's a lot of peaks and troughs, okay? So in such a case, whatever we budgeted for, whatever we priced in, whatever measures we planned, would have been met with fairly predictable outcomes, right? So when the thing hits the peak, we would have the reserves. So hit the troughs, would have some ability to grow and recover back. So scenario 1 is not the worst case scenario, but when it comes to scenario 2, where in the next few weeks or months, we're going to see a huge spike that we've never seen before we get to see better days, right? So this is the part where we cannot establish, what do you call that, certain things that whatever we budgeted for, whatever we set aside for, suddenly wasn't just enough. The policies, the goodies that come our way certainly wasn't enough because of the huge spike. So in such a case, we got to be extra conservative and we got to be very, very alert on indicators to suggest that the peak has been breached and it has reached new levels. Okay, and we have to this is where many companies will not be able to survive because it was beyond what they budgeted for, right? And the third scenario is then what you call a slow burn, okay, where things are picked up a little bit, but then it just dies down and stabilizes, and before it gets, what do you call that, subsides in a more manageable way. So the important implication of these scenarios is that, you know, the policies that we set, the monies that we set, the resources that we plan, right, and the types of corporate horizontal and vertical strategies that we pursue will be very much subjected to all these scenarios, and we got to plan for all three instead of just one. So this is the important message that we want to put up. So when it comes to digital economy, right, we have to know that digital economy is beyond just about online connectivity. It involves 5 very important components. It's more than just being IoT, it's just more than just being online and sell things on e-commerce. So it involves people, businesses, data, devices, and processes. So how is AI relevant to this? Because AI must be smart enough to adopt what you call a predictive and prescriptive, with the ability to monitor all this dynamism that happens every day. Like they say that change is the only constant. This is a perfect statement to describe how AI is most suitable, the most suitable form of technology that's able to deal with the dynamism that can be applied on those 3 scenarios involving these 5 components. So in our case, the AI that we talked about involves the natural language generation and understanding on the left-hand side, right? And the first half of the left-hand side, and the second half of the left-hand side would be the unstructured data through natural language processing. So when we analyze quantitative and qualitative data with all those 5 circles and those 3 scenarios, we will be able to go through, there's a little typo there, but L1 to L5, okay, from descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive, and auto monitoring, automated monitoring of all the dynamics. Because whatever we profile today may not be relevant 3 months down the road or even 3 weeks down the road, okay? Because scenarios are very, very volatile right now. So an important part of AI is to make them solve complex problems, not to automate transaction, but to ingest and digest very, very voluminous and very complex data involving millions of scenarios and variables. And SME being an important pillar of economic expansion for ASEAN countries because of the fact that 99% of their business establishments are actually them. Okay, SMEs form almost all of the business establishments in ASEAN itself and employ more than 90% and 60% of GDP in most ASEAN countries. So we did a study involving more than 800 SMEs since 2018 before COVID that then extrapolates into the future. And this was before the knowledge of COVID happening, okay? And what we discovered, or what we found was that the smaller SMEs that have turnover of 1 million ringgit per annum, right, are most vulnerable. They are already having equity erosion, asset shrinkages, and losing of market share to their peers that are above 1 to 5 million and those 5 million and above revenue. Okay, and number 2 is that the most vulnerable sectors at that time was actually environmental, chemical engineering, services company, logistics and trading. And this was before COVID, right? And now then we did a stress test at that time that in the event that sales actually declined by 2.5%, just a minor decline of 2.5%, and if costs increase by 5% or 7 or 10%, they are in negative zone. And all these are the vulnerability at that time that SMEs were already facing. And you can see that the first 550,000 SMEs in Malaysia are already in the red zone, okay, based on our dealings with agencies and discussions with the policymakers during COVID times. So there are concerted efforts to help this batch of SMEs in a huge volume to address this vulnerability. So at that time, we really identify where are the weaknesses, and you can expect the weaknesses are still the same: fragile balance sheet, muted sales growth, cost of operations on the rise, all right, and productivity are declining. These are already happened in 2018, and we mapped out the future in 19, 20, 21. These areas that are the areas that are listed on the slide shows what they need to address. Okay, and you can see there are 4 quadrants here: risk, return, matrix or dichotomy. So vertical talks about the business returns or how well they perform. Quadrant A talks about high risk, high return. Quadrant B talks about high returns, low risk, right? So from here, these are the existing portfolio of SMEs that we did a study on, but most of them are not in quadrant B. Most of them are in the high risk, high returns, and some of them are in the average return, medium risk, and a few of them are in the low returns, high risk. So because of COVID, based on what we analyzed, right, they are far from being quadrant B. They were heading towards quadrant B, but now they are pushed to quadrant D, right, which is the low returns, high risk. So this is what the state of situation facing SME. So what we are saying here is that before digital economic strategies can be effected, before pivoting can take place, right, there is a dire need to basically repair, restore, restructure these SMEs. And this concurs with the situation that officers at Traju, SME Corp are talking about, right? So before we pivot, this was a message. They need to restore and rebuild the fundamentals first. So the restore rebuild framework looks at a 3-step process, go through a financial health scan, go through the roadmap and action plans to do the intervention using AI, do the health scan, 150,000 SMEs in one go, doing the health check, road mapping, and then we can start injecting or infusing AI technology into SMEs. This to us is a very viable approach to ensure that their internal and external strength or potential and viability can be ensured. Okay, and this is a model by McKinsey that looks at the specific areas for rapid revenue recovery, where if you want a fast time to impact situation and with fast impact on earnings, EBIT basically, earnings before interest and taxes, should focus on things like revenue growth management, demand planning, which is the market side, marketing efficiency, and e-commerce analytics, which was part of the popular measure under the digital economic strategy, So, and of course, M&A is part of the thing, but it takes a bit of time, to pursue any of these measures. Okay, and key takeaways, my last slide is that digital economy is more than just digital connectivity. Because of the COVID factor, and measured this against our 2018 study, 19, 20, 21, we see that they have to deal with the COVID effects, and based on the 3 scenarios. And the greatest challenge now is survival. You have to survive and thrive. You can't just thrive and grow, but you have to survive and thrive. So before any pivoting can take place, R&R, in this case called restoration and rebuilding, needs to be done first. And to ensure the goals for digital economy is done, right, SMEs cannot be assisted on a one-on-one basis. You cannot do manually to do 100, 50, 10, let's do pilot, this and that, right? But you have to effect a drastic injection or medicine to affect a larger ecosystem, right, and wide across industry spectrums. Yet it has to be done on a customized basis. With that, I would like to end my speech and my sharing, and I'm sure my fellow panelists, they have much more to share and value add to this discussion on a broader basis. Thank you very much, Nasri.
Thank you, Nasri, for your presentation. I think you raised some very interesting points about how SMEs can rebuild their business and can move forward using AI as one of the tools for analysis and for future business planning. Thank you. Nasri is from Singapore, and hope everything is now okay in Singapore. We are back. We are open up now in Singapore.
Slowly, right. Gradual. Yeah.
Okay, may I now invite our next speaker, Mr. Goh Ping Wei, whom everybody knows. I don't think Mr. Goh needs any introduction. He has been voted by Forbes as one of the top ranked entrepreneurs, technology billionaires in the country, and won a lot of awards with Ernst & Young and many other international awards. And Mr. Goh is an expert on finance and technology. So over to you, Mr. Goh Ping Wei.
Okay, I covered touch on AI, and I think AI this year, 2020, is not really a good year. Starting with wave computing filing for bankruptcy, and SenseTime and McVie couldn't make a debut in Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And AI is really a long story that started even before me. While I was in IBM in 1980, even when I was in university, it's already about AI. And AI was coined by this person called John McCarthy in around 1958. But long before that, we are talking about Turing tests, you know, and church Lamla Kakalai. And so AI is actually a long journey, and it has gone through 3 waves. The first wave during the time of McCarthy, and then the second wave, people call it expert system. Then moving to this third wave, which is actually deep learning, you know, the wide learning, whatever learning, and you know, multi-dimensional neural net, and so on and so forth. Now, so it is actually a very confusing story, and it is really something that very interesting to talk about, because nobody has a definition of what is artificial intelligence. And now coming to the current status, actually I'm not going to cover current status. I would recommend 2 papers which I think it is worth reading, which is basically Deloitte's Insights, Tech Trend 2020. Now, it has a very good coverage of artificial intelligence and the various types of artificial intelligence, but it is very interesting. You can actually say that Deloitte's paper on artificial intelligence is very much from Western point of view. Now, there is another paper, unfortunately, is written in Chinese by Jess Ye, and the author is actually Xiao Jing. And I think it's very interesting Eastern point of view. And basically, it does not talk about technology, but it talks about the current situation of artificial intelligence. Now, and it actually used China as a background on what type of investments are there in China. And 76% of the money are being spent on application. So another way of looking at AI, if you combine these 2 papers, and if you combine and you look at it from totality point of view, you actually can say AI has a foundation layer. Now, this is what the Americans like, and they are very strong in the foundation layer. Now, foundation layer is basically computing, sensing, data aggregating, you know, and networking, and so on and so forth. Now, these are the foundation layer. Now, but the so-called AI proper, these are the methodological layer, which is actually where, you know, people talk about. When we talk about AI, actually we are mostly talking about the methodologies rather than the foundation layer or the application. Now, the third layer, of course, is the application layer. Now, which is what Xiao Jing was trying to focus on. So if you combine these 2 papers, it is quite an interesting read. It gives you quite a good perspective of what is going on around the world and what are people doing, what are the what kind of money are raised, and what are the likelihood going forward in these 3 areas. Now, I want to add one more area into AI, because finally all AIs are mathematics. Without mathematics, actually there is no AI. Now, what is unfortunate that people don't like mathematics, but what is AI all about in mathematics? It is about solutioning. Now, actually, when we talk about solutioning, we are actually in mathematics, we have various types of solutioning. And of course, the so-called virtual physical interchange is basically the famous Fourier transform. Now, in fact, a lot of sensing, a lot of methodology on the physical and virtual layer, actually, most of them are actually modified Fourier transform. They may give you all kinds of names, but actually all of them are actually Fourier transform. Right? And that is a very important mathematics. Even I use it in 1978 in modeling chips. Now, the second, which I used in 1990 to create banking solution, is actually called Galois series. Now that is a bit macro, but it still can go down to very micro if you want to. Galois series is basically a methodology of arriving at certain conclusion. Was originally discovered by Galois Everettier, which was in 1830. Now used in mathematics to solve polynomials. But actually, if you think about it, it doesn't need to stop at polynomials. You can expand it to all kinds of dimensions. And therefore, it is actually quite generic as a solutioning method, which I use it in banking. Now, and until today, I'm so surprised that nobody is using it. But we are deploying it further into digital banking. We are deploying further into InsurTech. Now, our InsurTech has grown. I mean, a lot of people has heard of Silverlake, digital banking, and so on, but very few has heard about our InsurTech. Now, our InsurTech has grown to cover the whole Asia Pacific. In Malaysia and Singapore, we have covered every insurance company that you can mention is 100%. And it is fast growing at about 25% per annum without cash injection, without resource injection, partially because of our wide range, wide coverage of investment, and that also lead to we just signed up a fund only last week. I'm making Silverlake as a fund. Finally, we are a fund, and without ability to raise money, actually, it is very difficult to do big things. And that links back to US. Why US is still going to be the best in fundamental AI is because in US, there's something called easy money. Now, it is very easy to raise money in US because the money has to go somewhere. Now, if you print money, you're not going to do it. You're not going to spend the money on apple, oranges, you know, or noodle. You know, you try to create a story and then you try to get a big return. Now, it has to be in a high-tech area. Now, if you are going to expect high return from noodle industry, sorry, I don't think you can. Or tourism is difficult. You know, hotel is difficult. Now, construction is difficult. And that, therefore, it is very natural for easy money to go to high-tech. And that's the reason why US is still going to be the strongest in the development of fundamental AI. But unfortunately, just the solution alone is not good enough because it is not sustainable unless you can have returns. And to get the returns, you definitely have to have market. Now, you can have the best thing in the world. If nobody buy from you, actually, there's no return. Now, so you need market in order to deploy AI. Now, so that leads to the simplification of this model that I want to introduce that actually starts from mathematics. And then it goes on to the physical and the virtual layer, where you transfer physical and virtual layer so that they can interact, so that you can have driverless car, so that you can hence have sensings in factories, and so on and so forth. Now and then you move on to of course, the methodology, because most of them are actually work based on network. Now it's just a different type of network. You know, there are so many ways that you can structure a network. So you call it different names just because the methodology is different. Now, and that is what we call AI most of the time. So this is the third layer. And finally, the layer that finally has to give you the return is the application layer. And so it's very interesting. US is going to lead in terms of R&D, but Asia is going to lead in terms of application. And that is going to be very interesting because now with the trade war and with all kinds of wars, don't know what war, but whatever it is, well, it looks like we have to work together. it's actually not possible for US just keep on coming out with technology and sell to nobody. And if US is not careful, China is going to build the technology themselves. So in fact, it is wrong to stop selling technology to China, but it is painful to sell to China because China learned very fast, and I understand the paradox. Now let me see what I have to cover. Okay, if I'm going to talk about the application side. Now, actually, when you look at application side of AI, actually there are three broad areas. The first area is called transformation. It's just because you need to transform something to something, and it applies to many things. It can be as easy as AppState to ASCII transformation. It can be as complex as English to Chinese transformation, but it can also be about M&A transformation. Now, so transformation is a big topic by itself, but anyway, all of them fall under the same mathematical model. It's just that how you apply them. Now, the second type is called ecosystem, which we know. Google, Facebook, in fact, those who hit it big in US, they are all ecosystem applications. Google, Facebook, now they're all ecosystems, whether it's Alibaba, whether it's whoever. Now, if they are not ecosystem, usually they don't hit it very big. Now, ecosystem is basically a big money game. And in fact, in Silverlake, we have about 10 ecosystem companies. And transformation, we have two transformation companies. And on the last part is called Digitech. I group all of them as Digitech. Basically, I want to simplify the definition of artificial intelligence. And I want to say artificial intelligence is about how many percent you automate. Now, if you automate less than 70%, you may want to call it automation. You may want to call it something else. It is up to you. But I think anything more than 70, 80% to 99.999% is actually artificial intelligence. Now, so artificial intelligence, when it was done by McCarthy, it was about languages. He developed a language called LISP, L-I-S-P. So today we are looking at it from a human point of view, that we are talking about solutioning, and we know we can't get 100% solution. Right? It's impossible to use computer to get 100%. A very easy test is to make computer angry, and the computer cannot get angry, and so you can't get 100%. Right? So basically, solutioning can never be 100%. But anything more than 80 to 99 point something percent is actually about artificial intelligence, and there are actually two areas of, or maybe 3 layers of application: micro, macro, and in between. Maybe there are 3 layers. Now, so if you look at it from that point of view, artificial intelligence is actually it's spread all over the place. It's all over the place. But if you are really interested in about artificial intelligence as per what Deloitte says, or as per what Xiaojing says, then there are 2 papers there. But Silverlake did it very differently. We focused on the mathematical solutioning, and the first one was Galois. Second, and then we went into conjugate. A lot of what I said is actually about conjugate. Okay, and so what I'm trying to say is, while you can explore the American way, you can explore the Chinese way, or you actually can explore the Silverlake way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goh. You made some very interesting observations, which are very useful for our discussion today. You've highlighted the Chinese way, which we seldom hear of. So this is something important, interesting. You also highlighted the need for applications and how to deploy AI. You emphasized the importance of transformation and the ecosystem. Thank you for all these views. Thank you, Mr. Goh. May I invite Adam Yee, President of Siemens, to address us now. Adam, the floor is yours. Hope you are well and okay.
Hello, very good afternoon. Thank you, Tan Sri. Everything well, except for very new normal for us now. I'm actually now in the office. Basically,
Good.
looks different. Yeah? However, we are already getting used to it already for the past 2 months with this new norm. And at the moment, our operations, we are consider 50% of the capacity of our resources is back to the office, and we are operating to support industry and also trying to help out with business and see how we can contribute and also support the rest of the business who actually at the moment we see some of the businesses actually struggling. And very interesting also see many of our participants over here sharing a lot of ideas. Probably from my perspective, maybe I will talk about a bit more about industry or manufacturing like AI. Perhaps I think AI is a disruption. It's completely redefined the business topic and how the business compete. I do it in industry revolution. I know in we are still in the beginning stage. This technology is going to be still, I think, I just now mentioned, just now is talking about the is spilling across all the businesses, every industry and every sectors. If I want to, let's say, relate this, it's ultimately similar like electricity. It's actually applied to every single industry and also businesses for artificial intelligence. So perhaps look into the digitalization topics here. Digitalization actually changed everything. It changed our way of how we communicate. Yeah, and the communication on what the communication meeting we have now is helping us to still keep in touch. It's changing the way how we buy things now, via the e-commerce, and also changing the way how we listen to the music by streaming, and all this is also changing on how we're doing the business. So I think it's actually for us it's important, especially for the small and medium enterprise, all the MNC companies as well. They have to start thinking about how to build a roadmap of digital transformation. With this digital transformation, in fact, the backbone of the digital transformation is actually the artificial intelligence. So in Siemens, I think we are actually our Siemens Enterprise Digital Suite, a software suite, actually to help our customer to embrace the adoption for Industry 4.0, embrace the technology. Can you hear me?
Yes. If you could get closer to your microphone or something, the voice is not too clear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better now. Again.
Okay, sorry. I think just now I also struggle with the network. Yeah. So I'm talking about the digital transformation, and the digital transformation is come with a lot of the backbone of the artificial intelligence. With this, for the manufacturer and also the SME, MNC, already started with the digital transformation roadmap, which is the adoption of Industry 4.0 emerging technologies. For example, like AI, 3D printing, additive manufacturing, as well as like IoT. Those technologies actually is already available in the market. However, to embrace into these technologies, actually it will be a challenge. Basically, everybody is trying to think about what will be my return of investment, what sort of technology is actually suitable for my application, also for my manufacturing process. All this we have to take into consideration, because I think this topic is not about only a single technology where you want to implement just for fun, but I don't think so. I think it's very, very important to need to fit into the business requirement. For example, these are the 4 elements. One is actually to reduce the time to market. All the manufacturer trying to shorten the time to deliver the market, from the product design till you have a final product and launch it to market. Secondly, also you will see that a lot of companies are expecting to have more enhancing for their flexibility, because I think some industry, like even for automotive industry, they are actually looking for maybe 100 or 200,000 variants of how they want to customize the product on the car, actually to let's say to fulfill the customer requirement individually. So, and then the next thing is also have to improve the quality. That's why some companies, they are also implement the robotics process in their productions to have a consistency on their productions. And last but not least, also to increase the efficiency and also the productivity. I think productivity is important because the productivity is actually in translation into cash, into cost. So I think to increase the competency and also to increase the competitiveness in the market, I think it's important to increase the efficiency and productivity at the end of the day. So all this will come into you need to do a deep dive studying about what is really relevant to you. What sort of technology actually could help you to improve your business, to reduce your cost, to be more competitive, and also you can go even to the overseas market. So AI, I think for this, basically, I look at the artificial intelligence is going to change the entire our work life, even artificial intelligence. Sorry. So the artificial intelligence will actually change our life. Perhaps when you look at now with the COVID-19, it's actually very unprecedented for this event because nobody expected such a change. And in fact, and this is actually to, I think it's also a awakening call for almost of the business to think of what should do and for the future. I think that is from my point of view. If let's say in the future with all this emerging technology like virtual reality, we have IoT, and then we have this autonomous and also 3D printing that can do customization for the products. They can reduce the time by having the automation and digitalization, and they will have data analytics and prediction for the plant. So you can imagine all this integration, yeah, with the entire network and the holistic view on the entire industry. Sooner or later, I think we probably need to work from home will be the future. Yeah? We don't need to have a workplace, for example, or you have a minimum requirement for the resources to be working the plant. Then, as long as you are connected into the internet, you are able to connect with people. You can connect with your home workplace. You actually can conduct things like this, and also in the future, I think 30% of people will be able to do all the business dealing through the internet. And then I think this is all possible. With this, probably our entire ecosystem will change as well. Because I think probably we do not need to stay in the city. You can work, you can get a house near to the place that you want, countryside or seaside, as long as you're connected to the internet. And probably you need to travel so frequently, then we will reduce our traffic jams. All this, I think, is possible, but it's a matter of time. I think the digitalization is for the people who really wanted to adopt, to look into that and prepare for the future. The risk is for people who do not want to go into it. That will be a risk because the technology is moving on and keep changing our life. The disruption is going on, and I believe with this, we need to really look into that, and we have to take this opportunity. I would say there is an opportunity. It's a crisis now with COVID-19, but it's also an opportunity for you to think about what you should do and what sort of strategy you want to go with in your company. So I just want to bring you a brief introduction and also brief sharing of my thought of what's going on with from the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam, for sharing your perspectives and your views. You have spoken about the need for the digital transformation roadmap. You have highlighted an important point about getting people to think about getting a return on investment on the deployment of AI. You have also spoken about the need to increase efficiency and productivity and how AI can enhance competitiveness by increasing efficiency and productivity and on the predictive models that AI can contribute. So thank you very much for that contribution. May I now invite our final speaker for today, Dr. Carl Ng from MDEC, the Malaysian Digital Economic Corporation, to address us. And perhaps you can share with us, Carl, the MDEC or the government's plans and strategies to roll out digital economy and how AI can further enhance the digital economy. Over to you, Dr. Carl.
All right. A very thank you to Tan Sri, fellow panelists, as well as all the viewers. First of all, like to thank all of you for listening. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so from an MDEC standpoint, our role is basically to act as a catalyst for digital economy. And we've been focusing on this in the last more than 20 years. And when we talk about digital economy, our position is for Malaysia to be the heart of digital ASEAN. And we actually look at three different perspectives. Number one is actually, how do you get more Malaysians to be digitally skilled? Basically upscaling the current Malaysian so they're able to use these skills to then drive higher productivity as well as getting new source of income. And this is particularly important. I think this COVID situation, forced a lot of people to go online, right? Those who in companies actually uses virtual meeting sort of tools. Companies are starting to sell things online, and this has actually forced a lot of people to be digitally skilled, right? And this accelerate this further. Second thing that we look at is actually digitally powered business. How do we get more businesses to be digitally savvy, and then also to use digital to grow their businesses and also to be more competitive, right? The last is actually looking at digital investments, right? So how do we get more people, organizations to invest in digital infrastructure, in developing productive use of digital solutions, and also to look at test beds and things like that, right? So this is actually what we actually look at. The next slide, please. Next slide. All right. So I described to you, what do you mean by all of this, right? This is three different areas. Next, please. Right. So in the last couple of years, MDEC has been focusing a lot in terms of data, right? We actually have national target when it comes to data professionals. We're looking at 20,000. And over the years, through research, surveys, benchmark, a lot of these companies are starting to look into having analytics or data-driven to be part and parcel of their businesses. Companies are allocating budgets. Some of them have set up a specific analytics unit within their organizations, right? So moving forward, especially for next year and onwards, some of these organizations are starting to use this AI in a more productive, data in a more productive way. Some of them are starting to go into AI, and a lot of companies are starting to use data, right? But the challenge is actually to get this data, right? To get data and getting people to share data with them so they're able to generate better insights. And also, how do we make sure that this data can be of certain value moving forward? Next slide. right? So we look at this, how to then drive, the use of data in analytics, in AI, and things like that, right? So we look at this from 4 different perspectives. Number one is, how do you drive and advocate, things around data sharing, looking at policy around this. Second thing is actually how do you drive community to adopt, data driven decision and also AI solutions. Number 3 is actually the talent perspective, and number 4 is actually, how do you get organizations to start adopting, data driven solutions. Right, next. Okay, so one of the critical problems when we talk to organizations about the need to look at data analytics and to look at AI, a lot of them faces problems, especially trying to get data from different organizations, right? And this is quite pertinent in areas like in government or in certain specific sectors, and mainly the reason why it's basically people not willing to, people unable to, and also not permitted because of certain policy. On this aspect, we are actually looking at a national data sharing policy right now. It's actually driven by the Multimedia Communication Ministry to look at a policy to make sure that everyone share the data where possible. Next. And also, and part and parcel efforts in order for people to create solutions around analytics and AI. We also have different initiatives. One of it is actually a data challenge that we work together with Toyota Mobility Foundation, where we actually get companies to provide data, and then get anyone, startups, business owners, etc., to come up with solutions based on the data. This could be analytics or AI sort of solutions and things like that. And for this challenge, we actually offer up to 1.5 million US dollars in terms of prizes, and majority of this is actually funded by Toyota Mobility Foundation. Next. Right, so we also work with different community partners. For example, School of AI, and these are just some of the names here. What we do is we actually organize different knowledge sharing sessions, workshops, seminars to upskill and also create awareness of the potential of AI. Next. In terms of talent development, we have been focusing a lot in terms of driving, the creation and development of data professionals. So far, we have created 14,000 data professionals, and more than 23 universities are actually offering data analytics courses. And a lot of them right now are starting to look into machine learning and focusing and moving towards AI. Next. These are just examples, names of universities, both from the undergraduate as well as from the postgraduate sort of level. We also have different training partners that actually offers data analytics, AI related courses as well. Next. Right, and something which is actually very important is actually to drive adoption. I think one of the issues, companies why they're not adopting new technologies such as AI is because there's lack of awareness between the decision makers, the C-levels, the directors. We actually have 2 different programs to address this. One is actually the data-driven enterprise program, where we actually work together with association, NGOs, and professional bodies to drive the awareness and also the understanding of how to deploy this. And we actually have different services such as workshop, expert advisory services, talent training programs, and use cases. At the same time, we also work with the solution providers to really help them to match with the potential clients, and also to help them in a talent requirement. Next. These are just examples of the programs that we have done last year, and we actually worked with different organizations such as the Rubber Glove Association. We work with the Security Industry Development Corporation and IDC to educate different organizations to the importance of data-driven. Next. Right, and these are just a list of our data technology partners. So these are actually partners that actually work together with us to offer solutions to the industry as well as different organizations. Next. Right, important thing is when the COVID-19 started, we actually have initiative called Digital versus COVID, where we get together different solutions and that able to address the needs of the industry as well as general public, right? So if you look at this, general public requires different solutions, simplified, secure digital solutions, and education and whatnot. And we actually work together with the solution providers to come up with a campaign to provide this to the general public. One example is Let's Learn Digital initiative, where we work together with Coursera to offer free online courses to Malaysians, unemployed Malaysians who wants to upskill during this time, right? The other things are on the businesses, where we work together with them to list down special offers, free solutions that the businesses can actually try out, and we list this down in this particular website. So you're free to look into this. Next. Right, so this is just on the solution providers and whatnot. You can actually help. You can actually volunteer yourself if you have any solutions or anything that you want to offer to general public, or if you're user organizations, you think that you have unique use cases that could be useful, that can be scaled out to different industry. You're also encouraged to come and talk to us so that we're able to see how we'll be able to help you, right? And we hope you're able to support our initiative, our events and our programs moving forward. With that, thank you. That's all I have, Tan Sri.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kallang, for sharing your perspectives. I think you have made a very interesting point that data is a new oil and an economic asset. You have also spoken about the need for data sharing and the need for a data ecosystem and for technology talent development. I think those are useful, important points to think about. We now have some time for questions, and I think there are some questions actually for you, Dr. Karl, to start with.
Yes.
One question is, how can get government departments to adopt and share data? Maybe can we pose that question to you first, Karl?
All right, sure. So the first thing that they can do is in the last 4 years, about 4 or 5 years ago, the government has an initiative called the Open Data Initiative, where the government departments are encouraged to publish the data through an open data portal. It's called the data.gov.my. When I started to look into this, the government only had about 100 data sets they actually published in this particular portal, right? So what we did was we actually got in experts from the UK, Open Data Institute, and we actually trained the government servants, and we actually established a process, governance process, to publish this data sets, a set of principles. And we actually got the government to issue circular to the government departments to publish this data, right? Why it actually works during that time is that this become a KPI for the government servants, right? So over the last 2 to 3 years, the numbers actually grown to about 11, more than 10,000 data sets in this particular portal, right? But the challenge here is in terms of the data release, the data release is not granular enough. One example is there may be certain data sets regards to, for example, agriculture product, but this is actually published at the state level, not at the district level or the kampung level, which is actually more useful, right? This is one of the challenges. The reason being it's the lack of guidance in terms of what needs to be done, right? So that's one aspect of things. So open data is something that the government is looking at and also trying to improve upon, trying to get more data available. The second area that we are actually looking at, which is actually part and parcel of the National Data Sharing Policy, is to encourage shareable data to be shared between government to government and also government to private sector based on certain terms terms and condition. Right, this is something which actually we are working on right now, because right now each department actually has their own standards and also policy. So we are trying to harmonize this moving forward.
Thank you. I'd like to pose a general question to all the panelists, and that is, what do you consider to be the major challenges or the problems that are associated in implementing AI applications, as well as implementing the Industry 4.0. Any views from anyone in the panel?
Perhaps I will start off first.
Adam?
Yeah. Can I
Nasri?
start first? Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I think that there are 4 types of hurdles that typically every country or policymaker, and to this on the basis that we've worked with more than 20 over government agencies all over the world, we're able to see a common pattern, including Singapore, right? So the 4 categories of hurdles would be at the strategic level, right? In terms of how silo or what's the vision, right, of implementing certain programs, certain IR 4.0 measures. So for example, when you see a government agency does many initiatives, right, you will see 10 other agencies probably doing similar or something overlap. So strategically, the whole plot needs to be consistent, and it's easier said than done, I know, but this is a challenge that has to be leveled out, at a bureaucracy across agencies instead of silos. So strategically, the visioning, the goal must be unified, right? And to do this, we must do the 20-80 rule, 80-20 rule, right? What will be the 20% that matters and impacts 80%? So in this case, in our belief that the SME side is certainly one area that needs a lot of help, and the way they need help will need to be done in stages, just like the coronavirus patient. Right? Not all coronavirus patients can be treated the same way, even though the symptoms are the same, right? But if you're an elderly versus you're a teenager versus you're an adult versus you're a toddler, so the element of treatment can be quite varied, right? So this is how granular we must be. And to do this, you cannot do manual, you have to do digital, you need to use AI to do the smart thinking. So the second category will be the structural part. So sometimes we have too many structures in the middle that impedes development. So structurally, we must deal with the right agencies driving the right focus, with everybody gathering and supporting, in this case MDEC, for example, right? So we're not saying there's none, but I'm just saying that
Industry 4.0 and AI.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, we can't hear you.
Okay, so I thought I heard somebody speak. So the third one is basically the operational aspects of it.
Hello, who is?
Yeah.
Nasri,
so
okay, can you speak a bit louder?
Yeah, sure. And the third category basically is the operational hurdles, right? So when you want to implement the activities, there will be challenges to it. I mentioned all these 3 challenges out of 4 first. The solution for all these basically is that you need to have an implementable blueprint that can be executed and accepted and harmonize all the things that Dr. Carl was mentioning. As long as harmonized, is aligned, the KPIs are all, the stars are in order, then you can implement it, especially when you implement something as big as IR 4.0. And of course, for us, we just specialize on one specific segment. That is the 99% of establishments in any ASEAN country would be the SME. So we want to help them in order to carry out the IR 4.0 more effectively. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you. Any other views from Adam or Mr. Gore?
Okay, I will give some feedback on this. Actually, if you talk about AI, now one of the most important things about AI is called boundary, is closure. Now, if you expand any boundary, then whatever AI finally you cannot get it solved. For example, if you say Chinese, then it depends on what type of Chinese. You have Hokkien, you have Hakka. So you say I want to translate Chinese, and you expand the Chinese to Hakka, Hokkien, Cantonese. Then finally you cannot translate anything. Now, so it's very important to find the right boundary when you design AI. And this is actually, there are methods to look at that. And I won't dwell into it, but I just want to say there are methods to look into how you decide boundaries. Now, once the boundaries are decided, the second thing is called boundary management, because now solutions are not just about one boundary. You know, it's usually cross boundaries. Like, for example, translation from Chinese to English. So actually you are talking about two boundaries. You are talking about Chinese and English. Now, the boundary management is a very well-researched topic today by Google, and they call it that orchestration. That is also a technological issue. Now, but whatever it is in day-to-day, whether we use technology or we don't use technology, it is very important to define the boundary and define what are the boundary conditions, the interchanges, the management issues, all the issues about the boundary. Even in politics, you're talking about racial boundaries, you're talking about religious boundaries. You find that actually in human life, we actually deal with boundaries a lot, and we need to have a proper methodology to decide boundaries, and we need proper methods to solve the boundary management. Now, it sounds complicated. The answer is yes, AI is complicated. Otherwise, it would not have taken human beings 60 over years and still struggling along. It can't be easy. So I won't recommend anyone to just jump into AI and say, okay, it is somebody teach me one lesson of AI and I'm going to jump into it. Now, this is the last thing to do. AI is most likely the most complicated topic out of all the so-called industry 4.0. AI is most likely the ending topic. But of course, you link anything together, you actually can call it AI. Whether it's networking, whether it's multi-chips, actually they are all AI issues. So AI is a topic that it is a very dangerous topic that don't underestimate and start reading a paper like, for example, 2019 was a big AI story in China, but now it cools down, right? So it shows that that something is very confusing. Even the whole of China trying to understand AI is not there yet. So AI is not a simple topic, but if you look at it like what I've just said, solution-wise, there are a few parts, the foundation part, the mathematical part, the methodological part, the application part. Now, then the approach-wise, you have the boundary and the boundary management. Actually, it's not that difficult from top-down point of view, but when it comes into deconstruction, means you break it down to detail and more detail and more detail, you find that it can be very, very confusing because all the researchers, they use different names. They don't standardize their research. The same hierarchy, they use 1,000 names. And actually, they belong to the same organization, same structure, but they use 1,000 names. And it causes confusions. So, for example, a lot of AI technologies are generally network technology. In fact, 90% of the AI technologies are network technology. 99% of the technology on sensing, on physical to virtual, are basically Fourier transform. Yet we come out with thousands and thousands of names. And this is the challenge of applying AI. And sometimes you need to step back and say, what are the fundamental issues? Means top down. Okay, step back is actually top down. And what are the fundamental issues? In implementation, usually it's the boundary and the boundary management. In deployment is actually the layer of technologies. There are 4 layers, and you must understand the technology before what you don't want is jump and mix the layers. And it's just like layer cakes. Once you mix the layers, they are not called layer cakes anymore. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Goh. Adam, do you have any views on this? Adam?
Yes, I just share my view about the hurdles, because I think I'm coming from the industry, and I can share with you about what is the hurdles it's facing for most of the manufacturing company, SME. Basically, we have a issue here about the skill gap. Yeah, so a lot of company now, they are actually asking for new skill. Yeah, because what is the problem in the reality is actually there is 2 different skill of people. One is the people who is in the IT, which is primarily from the upper level, and also the people in the OT. Yeah, but these 2 skill set is actually not having the same person, and we really do not have a person who have the same expertise. So the emerging technology is actually bring new opportunity as well, also new skill. We call it a new job skills, which is more like, for example, I listed 5 of them. One is actually the network automation development for software and automation expert, application developer. This is the most wanted now in the market. IT security and governance is actually important for cybersecurity expert. So IT worker, sales, marketing, evaluation, content editor, IT graphic designer is actually also one of the demand in the market for those people have this kind of expertise. Data scientists, I think data scientists, everybody heard about it, really about the important to have a data scientist to do analytics, predictives, and all this skill is not a classical skill that is available from the past. And the last but not least, also we need to have cloud services. I think cloud technology, we still need to optimize it. With this optimization actually will help us in the future for AI as well as for Industry 4.0. So the other part is actually I'm looking at now is also it's very important for the adoption for Industry 4 is actually, as I said just now again, it's important to know what you need for your businesses. How can you improve your productivity, efficiency, and time to market, quality, and sales, as well as the flexibility, how you manage your production line. I think it's important, all the assessment and technical assessment, we do also do readiness of assessment. We do manufacturing consulting design. Actually, we are one of the partners for MDEC on this TTL. We do assessment, the assessment from technical perspective, from the manufacturing and processes, we should start from the bottom. Yeah? That means we have to analyze, to understand about what is your process and where you are, what are the status of your automation, and also the embracement of your industry. Are you in the 2.0 or 3.0? All this transparency, we need to do a readiness assessment. And then you have to dive into the details, then you have to build up your own Industry 4 blueprint. And the blueprint from individual business, it can be different from any one of them, because it's all depending on your needs, yeah, your critical pain point. So that is one thing. Once you have done the assessment, you have readiness of manufacturing design, consultancy, services, everything, you have done it. And there's a lot of companies doing this as well, to helping the customer, helping the businesses to define their roadmap. Then from there, this is the most critical another hurdle. The decision making has to come from the top, yeah. That means the engagement to embrace, to really implement this blueprint, it has to be coming from the decision maker. And I find many times whenever we are approaching the customer, there's always a struggle whether how good they have done so far. Are we coming here to teach you what to do? In fact, this is also always a challenge that we are facing. Our objective is actually to help out the customer, to helping them how they can improve their technology, how they improve their processes, how they improve their productivities. But but we are not coming here to teach you what to do, because we do not have the knowledge of what you are doing, perhaps, yeah. So we are actually helping you to see these are the skill and these are the technology that will help you to improve your business. And we need to get the engagement from the top, because as I said again, the people from the shop floor and the people from the IT, people from the procurement, they have all their own silos, cluster, yeah. And this is nothing wrong about it. This is a classical, traditional, all this while the business is running like this. But now if you want to implement something, for example, like you want to go for the manufacturing execution system with the cloud-based analytics prevention of your maintenance. And I think this is really, you need to have a holistic view, the overview about your whole entire processes. And that is actually help the business. And this is something that has to start from the entrepreneur, the decision maker. And last but not least, of course, we need to get, of course, this also important to get the government agency, the government to support this adoption of Industry 4.0 towards the future direction, because we need to compete, yeah, among our neighbors country, not only the neighbors country and the other of the country, like even from Far East and also for the Western country. In order for us to compete in this arena, I think it's important for us to start now. Okay, that's about all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. I have one last question that was actually raised by one of the participants, and this is mainly for Dr. Carl Ng. And that's a question on internet connectivity and speed, which seems to be a very important enabler for AI and IR 4.0. Can you, Dr. Carl, enlighten us on the plans for internet connectivity and increasing the speed of internet?
Right. So this is a domain where it's not directly under MDEC, but it's actually under
CMC, isn't it?
Yeah, it's under MCMC and also the Communication and Multimedia Ministry. So rest assured that the MCMC, for example, is driving the National Fiberization Plan, and it's actually in their best interest to drive the need for better connectivity and also better speed moving forward. Because I think this COVID pandemic actually shows the need to really up our game when it comes to connectivity, right? And now that everyone is online, I think this is an area which is becoming more and more important. And I think the relevant government agencies and ministries are doing their part to make sure that all these issues are being addressed. When it comes to infrastructure, it requires some time to really roll out some of this, right? So I think they are doing their best to address the current needs right now.
Thank you very much. I think we need to bring this to a close. I want to thank all of the speakers for sharing your valuable thoughts and knowledge. Mr. Gopingwe, you've shared a lot of real practical business lessons that we can think about, and the other speakers have also shared their very important industry perspectives. So let me, on behalf of all of us, thank our speakers for their thoughts, their sharing, and thank you to all the participants who have watched this webinar. We try to see you another time. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.